Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, this is James Flippin. Roger Stone has the night off, so I am in for Roger. I am in the Stone Zone with you. And it's such a pleasure to be with you on a Friday night. You can get up with me on social media at @JamesFlippin or on Instagram, Flippin' Out Radio. And we're taking your phone calls as well tonight. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. James Flippin in for Roger Stone in the Stone Zone. So the Supreme Court sided with China today, and U.S. hockey is going to try and stop the Maple Leaf squad. Your calls throughout, but for sure we're going to start with that rotten Supreme Court decision. And so hit it, Carlos.
Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. That I can assure you.
That I can assure you. Yeah, they're dancing, baby. They're dancing in Shanghai. They're dancing in Beijing. And in Shenzhen. In Guangzhou. They are dancing because those factory owners in China are very, very excited. They can continue to pay their workers, if you want to call them that, really more like indentured servitude, in gruel and cold rice and dirty water and a couple of pennies a day. Yeah, the factory owners in China just got the green light to continue screwing over the American consumer and hurting the American economy. The Supreme Court said, America first? Forget that. We're China first, baby. Or Canada first. Or Mexico first. Basically anybody but America first, okay? That's what you get from the black robes on the bench in the Supreme Court. President Trump said he wanted to thank Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for having the courage to do what's right. And isn't that interesting when you think about it? The Supreme Court is supposed to be the arbiter of the laws, the umpire, the balls and strikes. Are laws that are passed in this country allowed within the structure of the Constitution? But we know it's deeper than that, right? The Supreme Court is very political. And despite the fact that it's really not supposed to be, it bends in the Republican Democrat way that so many other institutions do. But the courage to do what's right. The Supreme Court did not have that. The truth is the Supreme Court likes to pretend that it's not political. Sort of the obvious reality to everybody, and we talk about it that way in the media, the conservative justices, the liberal justices, whatever. But the truth is the Supreme Court is not supposed to be, and it kind of pretends like it's not political. I don't know. Maybe for people like Clarence Thomas, who I respect, and as a conservative, I tend to like his political opinions and his judicial opinions, but for him, I guess I could see a scenario where it is really just a conservative interpretation of the law. But here's the problem. It's a different variation of never Trump to dig in on this whole concept of I'm just following the Constitution. I'm just trying to interpret the law. It's a principled conservative versus the rogue MAGAites debate all over again. But see, the Democrats on the Supreme Court, and we know who they are, Sotomayor, Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, these are Democrats masquerading as jurists. And they have no such reservations or hang-ups when it comes to the whole goal of being principled. The whole idea of you just gotta look at it from the original interpretation of the Constitution, and that is nowhere near the language or the mindset of the left-leaning justices. It doesn't mean they're not principled. They're plenty principled. Just as long as it marches toward a creepy leftist, communist, Marxist, socialist agenda. If whatever happens within their chambers and as the result of their decisions, if it pushes toward that leftist agenda, then they're feeling pretty principled. But oh, good, you had to say to yourself as you saw that ruling come down today. The Supreme Court is protecting China and protecting Canada and other unfair traders. The Democrats on the court, they automatically go for the left-leaning position, right? As long as it's something that President Trump actually wanted to see happen, they're going to go the other way. But the Republicans, somehow, it's always like, well, what's Amy Coney Barrett going to do? What's Justice Roberts going to do? That's piece of crap. What are, what's Kavanaugh thinking on this one? They're the swing vote. The Republicans are the swing vote. The Democrats, to the extent that they actually are in the Supreme Court, they just do whatever they're supposed to do based off the leftist orthodoxy. Democrats really do circle the wagons. That's something you have to hand to them. You have to hand to them that they never break ranks. Outside of this whole Israel issue, which has them all in a pretzel, like are Jews wealthy landlords or put upon minorities? We just can't seem to understand. We can't make our mind up, darn it. Well, President Trump nailed it today as far as the Supreme Court. This will be cut to, Carlos. Supreme Court, the Democrats, anybody who's got a D next to their name, or even if they don't, even if it's just the magical little invisible one when they serve in the Supreme Court, they never break ranks. Cut to.
The Democrats on the court are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices. They're an automatic no matter how good a case you have. It's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty. It's one thing you can do with some of our people.
Boom. And that's exactly right, President Trump. That's exactly right. What's something that the American people have said overwhelmingly they want? Voter ID. You look at the polling, 80% of Americans say there should be something akin to a federally mandated voter ID to participate in these elections. That is a supermajority. Whoever those creepy 2 in 10 are that say, no, it's fine, anybody should be able to vote, they don't matter. The 80%, that is as close to an absolute mandate as you'll get in politics. But you've got these holdout politicians out there, Mitch McConnell, saying he's not going to vote for voter ID. Oh, okay, great. So Mitch McConnell, one of the standard bearers for the Republican Party, something as simple as voter ID, he can't get behind that. But then when you have a president levying tariffs on foreign imports, something that, going back to the founding of the country, was something that the executive is supposed to do, that's a problem, and the Democrats in the court are going to strike it down. This is why politics in this country is such a joke. You have an entire group of people who just want voter ID laws. It's not political. 8 in 10. Last I checked, we're pretty 50-50 with the whole DNR thing. 8 and 10. They want the voter ID laws. Can't get it. Can't pass it. You know, nobody can understand why the government spends so much money. How does it spend so much money? The GDP numbers came out today. The economy, you know, not exactly humming along as nicely as some might want or like, but we make a lot of money in this country. We do pretty damn well for ourselves. Where does it all go? How do we have a $38 trillion deficit? Well, the Supreme Court doesn't care about that. That's perfectly constitutional. Running a deficit every year, devaluing the dollar, screwing everybody's future 50 years from now, perfectly constitutional. And we've got some good audio on some of this stuff for later this hour. Taxes, property taxes in New York City going to be on the rise. Somali fraud in Minneapolis. Now they're claiming they're victims. Immigration and ICE in these United States. You've got states like Maryland and New Jersey trying to kick out federal agents who crack down on citizenship laws. I mean, this is what's going on right now. 1-800-848-9222. And I'm James Flippin in for Roger Stone. This is the Stone Zone. But as for tariffs, this is what I don't understand. A couple of years ago, when Roe v. Wade got overturned, when the law of the land, the prevailing law, became that states can decide on abortion statutes. Everybody on the left, the CNNs, the MS Nows, the Washington Posts, the New York Times, whatever, your neighbor who likes to cry to you about whatever the latest talking point on Axios is. The conservative stranglehold on this country was all anybody could talk about. Oh, the conservative Supreme Court, oh, they're a rubber stamp for whatever President Trump wants to do. What happened to that? What happened? President Trump described this as a life or death issue for the country. He staked his financial plan on this whole idea that the American consumer is getting ripped off. Foreign entities are benefiting from that profit margin. The American consumer has no recourse other than to have its government say, cool, you want to make all that crap in China and sell it over here? You got to pay a penalty. You got to pay a fee. And believe me when I tell you, and we'll hear from Scott Bessent later this hour, it was not the American consumer who was paying those taxes. It was that factory owner in China. Because it's more important to him that the machines continue to turn, and the number that he sells the little tchotchkes for here in the United States really doesn't matter. That's how significant their profit margin is.
Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care. Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer
treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Next up, a laughing session from the Laughing Cow. Now, unpeel a wedge of the Laughing Cow light spreadable cheese, a delicious snack with 2 grams of protein and 25 calories per wedge.
Yeah, but what happened to all the crying and the tearing out of the eyes, the rendering of the wrenching of the clothes, and what happened? Roe v. Wade. I really, really love that. When you're so hyperbolic as to say that the world is basically over after Roe v. Wade, and we're going to pack the court. We're going to have 15 justices. We're going to have 19. We're going to make Puerto Rico a state. We're going to make Washington, D.C. a state. And now it's, oh, would you look at that? What a great decision from the Supreme Court. Wow, that's American democracy if I've ever seen it. Take that, President Trump. So we're not going to pack the court anymore? We're done with that, I guess. You got Justice Roberts out there. He might as well be a Democrat. Thanks, by the way, George W. Bush. Thanks so much for Justice Roberts. Obamacare, striking down Trump's tariffs. Just what a conservative jurist. Put him in the history books. Can't let the president impose tariffs. How will our foreign paymasters make their money? We got soaring national debts. We got Christians being harassed in churches while they worship. White people being persecuted just for being white. That's all. Can't go to a private school. Can't get into this elite school in New York City. Oh, you're white or you're Asian, which is white adjacent. Property taxes on the rise. No recourse there. What's any American supposed to do about that? Because they'll put you in jail if you don't want to pay those. But one thing to keep in mind when you think of midterms or when the political prognosticators want to get into who's the next Republican nominee going to be, who's the next Democrat nominee going to be, one thing to keep in mind. And when you think politics and the Oscars and the Emmys and the Grammys and New York City and LA and Chicago, lots of people live there, right? Lots of cultural influence with those institutions, right? Yet their political movement and the people who actually buy the crap they're selling, it's very small. Carlos, this will be cut one. I'd like to listen to President Trump again because he so brilliantly breaks it down in a very short clip here.
Disloyal to our Constitution. It's my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller than people would ever think.
Far smaller. Far, far smaller. You think the average American, and I'm sorry, let me just say this. Let me first and foremost just say I'm sorry. Alex Preddy shot dead in Minneapolis. Renee Good shot dead in Minneapolis. Obviously, the U2s of the world and the Bonos and the Bruce Springsteens, and they care a lot, right? And the family members of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, they obviously care a lot. And any feeling, breathing, heart-filled person is going to feel badly that somebody was killed just because they decided to mess with federal authorities. But do you think the average person out there on a Friday night trying to get home from work, trying to get back to their family, just getting done with work for the day, thinking about their weekend, thinking about cracking a beer, thinking about getting a pizza, thinking about doing whatever with their life, is spending a single second on Renee Good or Alex Preddy? No. And the only reason that all those people pretended to care about George Floyd is because all the white guilt that got drummed up. That's all. The guy died of an opioid overdose. Renee Good, Alex Preddy shot because they were messing with federal agents trying to influence and carry out immigration operations. This is not a powerful political movement. But you know what is powerful? You know what does influence? Money. Lots of money. And as you heard in that clip as well, President Trump very astutely pointing out, the foreign influence. We'll talk about it. 1-800-848-9222. Also, let's talk about the Olympics. Sports talk that bends a little political. We'll do that. It's the Stone Zone. Roger Stone has the night off. I'm James Flippin. 1-800-848-9222.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I already almost stepped on Roger there. Roger's got the night off. This is James Flippin. This is the Stone Zone. You know, this is absolutely awful. I'm looking at this video of this Polish skater, Camelia Sellier. She almost got her eye gouged out by the skate. It flung up, hit her in the face. Oh, my gosh. This is just... We'll talk Olympics.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
No, but he's been treated very unfairly. I love that clip when they have President Trump saying that. Hey, it's James Flippin. I'm in for Roger Stone, who has the night off. This is the Stone Zone. And we've been talking about tariffs. We got into the Olympics there very briefly. We will be talking Olympics because as we get ready to root for Team USA in the gold medal game against Canada in men's hockey, the women already got the gold. Now we want the men to bring it home. I don't really necessarily care that much about hockey, but I do want to see the United States win. And ESPN is very excited about Women's Sundays, because we all know that's what every sports fan is looking for, Women's Sundays. But the phone lines are sizzling right now. You got to talk to my man Vincent before you get to talk to me. But it's 1-800-848-9222. And just looking at some of the studio's TVs right now, American Express regrets working with Jeffrey Epstein. Has anything jumped the shark harder than all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff? I mean, look, I'm all for accountability and busting pedophile creep sex traffickers. But this all, if I'm not mistaken, this all happened like 15 years ago, supposedly, right? Is the implication that that stops with Jeffrey Epstein? Am I to believe that the whole idea of sex trafficking was just rooted in Jeffrey Epstein and that's it? It's all done now. No. I mean, it's sad. It's heartbreaking, the extent to which it is still going on. And Tom Homan, the border czar, said that in Minneapolis, I think they saved like 3,000 kids, something like that, over the last couple of months doing this ICE crackdown operation. How many headlines does that get? 1-800-848-9222, talking tariffs. And you know, I like alliteration. So let's talk to Max in Manhattan.
James, thank you for taking my call. You're doing a good job tonight. Very good job. Listen, you said the Chinese might be paying off justices. Is there any sort
I
of
didn't exactly
trail?
take it that far. I kind of did imply it. I implied it. Go ahead.
I'll say it. I think they're being paid off by the Chinese. And first question is, can we find a paper trail? Second question, why did the Chinese own so much land in North Dakota and South Dakota?
That's a great question. I wish I had the answer. I really wish I had the answer, because that whole situation is definitely a threat to national security. It's weird, for one thing. Some of that land, and I think partially just in and of itself, it is farmland or it's near farmland. And you're obviously talking about the nation's food supply. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. The whole argument that tariffs do not connect to an emergency provision is a total fallacy. And Max, thanks for making the call. I appreciate it. The idea that there is no emergency behind the imposition of tariffs is just false. Look at what happened during COVID. Look at what happened when we couldn't make our own medicine, get our own medicine, when we had to worry about the global supply chain. Yeah, I mean, it is an emergency. It is something that absolutely has to happen in terms of getting industry back into the United States and making it a viable aspect of what we do economically. Manufacturing, making things, investment in the domestic. That's an emergency. We can't just be a consumer class. I know AI is going to change everything and just push a button and it's going to all get made right here or whatever. But for the time being, until the robots take over, we got to figure out a way to protect ourselves. And that's an absolutely good point, Max. The money influence, the foreign money influence, definitely something that needs to be looked at. And yes, there is an emergency. But taking a break from the tariffs for a second here, as we do get ready to root for Team USA in that gold medal game, let's get into some sports talk that bends political. Not the U.S. athletes who bashed ICE. That's all old stuff, and who cares? But have you heard of Eileen Gu? She is an American-born freestyle skier. Very pretty girl. She's picked up a couple silver medals. I think she's competing, or maybe she did compete today, so I don't know. She might have finally gotten her gold. But she is an American-born athlete who is competing for China. She competes for China. And I wonder why. Cha-ching! Because she's getting paid by the communists to compete for their little vanity project, which is obviously the Olympics. That's in sports, the American people care about sports because we respect the competition, because we respect the desire to be the best, because we absolutely enjoy the drama and the beauty in it and the storyline and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really, it's not some source of nationalistic pride. Yeah, I'm going to root for Team USA in the hockey game because I'd rather see them beat Canada than lose. But, we're a very globalized country in many ways. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to defend what it is to be an American or defend the American way of life or stand up for the Western way of life and, the Judeo-Christian way of life. Of course, we do want to do all those things if we're conservative. But we don't necessarily think about all this stuff in terms of pride and shame and, oh my gosh. But this woman, she competes for China, I guess, because one of her parents are Chinese. All right. Here's the thing. A lot of us do revel in it then, her lack of gold, because she's competing for the enemy. You can compare Gu with Liu, who did win gold at the 2026 Olympics. Who is Liu? Alyssa Liu, who won gold. She's the daughter of Arthur Liu, a Chinese political refugee who fled to the U.S. after supporting the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. So this is the daughter of a man who fled persecution in China, raised his family here, and now she is a gold medalist for the United States of America. That is a success story, ladies and gentlemen. That is a beautiful story. So what did J.D. Vance do, the vice president? Well, naturally, he came out and blasted Gu, who's the American who decided she wanted to compete for the Red Chinese. And that is his right as an American. But Gu says, she feels like a punching bag for American politics. Oh, is that right? Oh, well, boo-hoo. Sorry, sweetheart. Maybe you shouldn't have prioritized making a bunch of money from the communist thugs in China. Maybe you should have appreciated what a great country this is. And maybe you shouldn't have been a backstabbing traitor. Just a thought. 1-800-848-9222. And speaking of traitors, has there ever been a more traitorous administration than the Biden White House? Whoever was making the decisions there. He tried to jail Trump. He was elected in shady circumstances, probably the most fraud-ridden election ever. He used the auto pen to pardon hundreds of people. He threw open the southern border, threw it open, watched it all burn. Come on down. Everybody comes in. Come on in. You can fit. Come on. We're going to make it. It's like dad picking up the whole team at soccer practice. No, we can squeeze in another one. It's okay. We got you. Used the auto pen to pardon hundreds. Whoever was doing all this crap, because we know it obviously wasn't brain dead Biden. But this Somali woman in Minnesota, this is rich. This is really rich. This will be cut 5, Carlos. This Somali woman at a press conference talking about how victimized her fellow immigrant community has been because of the ICE crackdown. And just to reiterate what that is, it's federal agents saying, you got to get out. You're not here legally. Bye. Time to go. But for the Somali woman in this clip, that is such an affront that she feels victimized by that. Cut 5.
We have been suffering since the crisis of ICE. We also demand an immediate help to evictions so families are not pushed to homelessness during the crisis. Our community deserves accountability. Our community deserves safety. We need also justice for those who lost their lives defending the community.
Justice for those people who lost their lives. She wants a financial restitution for the fact that businesses have been impacted by this stuff. This is absolutely shameless. The estimates in Minneapolis, and if you lost the plot, I wouldn't blame you, because the whole Renee Good and Alex Preddy thing served as a pretty juicy distraction. But the last time we were talking about Minneapolis, before a bunch of people came together and said, thou shalt not influence and enforce immigration laws, were all these daycare centers and all the Meals on Wheels programs and all the taxpayer money that was being stole in Minneapolis. So to that woman, I say this: you want some sort of a payment because ICE upended your community or whatever? How about this? Get out. How about this? Your reparations were all the fraud cash that all your cousins already stole and shipped back to the home country through the airport. Oh, yeah. Because, there's more cash that moved out of the Minneapolis airport over the last 2-3 years than from JFK Airport in New York City. Make sense of that one for me. So your little prize is the daycare fraud, the adult care fraud, the Meals on Wheel programs, all the money that you made off that, that's your reparation. And hopefully somehow it gets clawed back anyway, but 1-800-848-9222. So let's just get back into tariffs for a second here. And then maybe we can squeeze in a phone call. We got to get a commercial break out of the way too. But the tariffs thing, first of all, it's not going to work anyway. The Supreme Court's attempt to stop President Trump from imposing tariffs on foreign trading partners, it's not going to work. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent explained on Fox News how this just means that Trump will do it a different way. There's a lot of different ways. You know how all the leftist freaks in this country, all they have to do is find some random judge in Minnesota who's going to say, you can't do that. I'm slapping an injunction on this, and you're going to have to go through 1 million different courts to try to get this figured out. Like we did with, what's his name? Maryland dad, Kilmar Abrego Garcia or whatever. Tie it up in the courts. Put it all on ice. Well, President Trump will do the same thing. And this decision that just came down today from the Supreme Court, where all these corporations are going to be looking to get some money back, it's going to be a long court battle. But the fascinating thing about this is how so often the people trying to get in the way of Trump and his agenda and foul up the whole thing, they're just ineffectual. They don't even know what they're doing. We could talk about that with the ICE stuff later in the show, but let's listen to Scott Bessent in cut 3, Carlos, because he's explaining what the real impact of this court decision is going to be.
This could take months, this could take years to litigate and to get to the payouts. And if there is a payout, it looks like it's just going to be the ultimate corporate welfare, because what you don't know is, did a Chinese supplier lower their price? So they lowered their price because of the tariff. The product came into the U.S. The buyer paid the tariff, but it was really the same price as before, but they're going to get a refund on the tariff.
Isn't that fascinating? Exactly what we were saying. Exactly what we were saying. All those companies in China that are making all this stuff and they want to sell it over here in the United States, they have an incentive to lower their wholesale price. So yeah, sure, the tariff, whatever, it gets paid and it's covered. But the net result is that it was China left holding the bag. Now they're going to get a refund. Now they're just going to get made whole on whatever their profit margin would have been. This is corporate welfare. And Trump, therefore, making the good point. Who is paying these justices? We had such a protracted examination of Clarence Thomas being flown on his best friend's plane to a lake house or something. They went on summer vacation together. And it was the biggest deal ever. They had to have these inquiries and all kinds of think pieces in the Wall Street Journal. And is this ethical? Is this a violation of ethics? But Ketanji Brown Jackson's laughing it up out at the Grammys like it was nothing. No problem there. Who are these people's paymasters? And how do we know? Would any investigative journalists actually dig in on a Sotomayor or a Kagan? Speaking of the president, Carlos, let's cue up cut 8, please. You can fire that one ready. Cut 8.
Well, I think that foreign interests are represented by people that I believe have undue influence. They have a lot of influence over the Supreme Court, whether it's through fear or respect or friendships. I don't know. But I know some of the people that were involved on the other side, and I don't like them. I think they're real slime balls.
Slime balls. You're absolutely right, President Trump. Real quick, before we hit the break, let's talk to Sandra in New Jersey. Hi, Sandra.
Oh, James, I wanted to tell you something. I've been thinking about you for a long time and how proud I am of you. And I don't know if you realize you have probably the best job there because you are totally on top of the news every day. You're very lucky. And not only that, when you deliver it, it's the best. I had to share that with you.
That's really nice of you, Sandra. I really appreciate those comments. I hope you have a great weekend. And since I know you're in the tri-state area, I hope it's not too snowy because they got that nor'easter coming in. But yeah, look, I am on top of the news. Sometimes it's not such a treat. I'll put it that way. Sometimes I just want to go back to not knowing who all the senators are and knowing who all the reps are and knowing what these laws are that's going on. It gets to be a bit much sometimes. All right. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. I am James Flippin in for Roger Stone on the Stone Zone.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Roger Stone has the night off. I'm James Flippin, and it would be great to connect with you after the fact. You can follow me on X at XJamesFlippin or on Instagram, Flippin Out Radio. So in terms of ICE and immigration customs enforcement, New Jersey's Governor Mikey Sherrill doing everything she can to throw up roadblocks against those agents, encouraging people to take cell phone video and upload it to the website, and ICE agents can't do things from state property and all that kind of stuff. Well, down in Maryland, we had a similar thing where a county severed its relationship between the sheriff's department and ICE. Let's listen to cut 4, Carlos, because this sheriff in Maryland just really nails how ineffectual all this stuff is from the political left.
The abolishment of the 287G program is not the abolishment of ICE. They're going nowhere. In fact, they're going to intensify their effort. We warned them this was going to happen, and it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the more you try to subvert ICE, stop them from being able to do their job, sever any connection between local cops and federal agents, the more you put your people in danger. In more ways than one, by the way. Anybody who's going to go out there and stomp their feet and chant and hold up and, you know, say, hey, ho, ho, we won't go, any of that stuff, they're not safe if the cops aren't working with the federal agents. And obviously, everybody in those constituencies aren't safe, I should say, if there's no stop on drug dealers and gangbangers and pedophiles and all the terrible criminals ICE routinely gets rid of. They can't even subvert America properly, these people. It's just terrible. Let's talk to Bob in New York. What's up, Bob?
How you doing? It seems that the left, the globalists, the elites, they want to destabilize the economy and the dollar. But here's what I worry about. When you crack people's rice bowls enough, they'll take up arms to defend what they have. And we've seen that the political attacks and the lawfare, the violence, when that fails, they turn to the judiciary, who acts completely as obstructionist. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. It really makes one think that the justices have been influenced by outside sources. And it's not conspiracy. I would suggest this is just alternatives awareness.
Yeah, it's just really kind of paying attention to what's going on in front of you, Bob. It's absolutely true. I mean, the simple concept of an executive, the chief executive of the company, or in this case, the country, deciding how much of a tax or levy is going to be placed on imports. That's somehow something that needs to get taken all the way to the Supreme Court? Whether or not the president has the ability to levy tariffs against other countries. Well, let me tell you something. In the streets of China, while they get those factories humming, they're dancing in the streets. That's right. Thank you, Martha and the Vandellas, because that's what they're doing in China. They're dancing in the streets, but not for long. Not for long. And President Trump will be there in China next month. What do you think of that, President Xi? James Flippin, I'm in for Roger Stone, the Stone Zone. Won't you join us again on the Red Apple Audio Networks?
Thanks for listening to the Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear the Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.